In this video, I'm going to show you how to read n-gram graph in your language analysis, that is paper 3. You must be aware there are different types of graphs, for example, line graph, bar graph, pie chart, and many more. But the good news is you are given only line graph in your paper 3, that is language analysis. Let me show you different line graphs examples from your past paper. For example, this one is taken from 2021 paper. The second example is again from 2021 paper. And this is the third one is again line graph from 2021 past paper. This is from 2022 past paper and again line graph. The fifth example is again line graph from 2021 past paper. So it shows that in this video I'm going to show you how to interpret a line graph. It is also considered as n-gram graph, and you know what is n-gram? N-gram shows the sequence of n words, because gram means words in Greek language. The most important thing here is the variables, means how many variables used in line graph. And here there are only two variables, that is, one is on the x-axis, this is x-axis horizontal line, and the other one is the vertical axis, and that is y-axis. So you can see there are only two variables used here. One is the time period, that is in the terms of years, and the second variable is the percentage. You can see the sign here, the sign of percentage used here. So it means two variables given to you in every line graph, that is percentage and the time period, that in terms of years. Let me show you the rest of the examples as well. Here again time period and the percentage. Then again time period percentage, and the time period percentage. So remember only two variables, that is x, that is something on x-axis, and the other one is on the y-axis. And one thing is independent variable and the other one is dependent variable. Independent variable which you cannot change, and the dependent variable which is being changed. There are sometimes there are two words given for the line graph, and sometimes there are two phrases given to you for the analysis, and sometimes these are phrases. For example, for your information, this is not a word, it's a phrase. And sometimes there are the full-fledged again two phrases, if the weather is, if the weather be. So mostly there are two words or phrases for the line graph, and sometimes you can have three words as well. For example, online, internet with I capital and small I, internet. So there are three words can be given to you for analysis. And sometimes you are having even four words given to you for your analysis, because it is n-gram. N-gram means the sequence of n words. For example, number of the words can be increased. So keep this thing in mind. To interpret n-gram graph or the line graph in exams, there is some specific vocabulary you need to know. For example, if you want to say to go up, for example, one variable is, or the line is going up like this, you can use the word increase. But every time, repeatedly, you cannot use the same word. So instead of using the word increase, you can use the word rise, or you can say go up, or shoot up, or there is a rise, or you can say upward rising, increasing trend, or you can say progression. So don't use the same wording, and you can use different words as well. Similarly, if the variable or the line is going down like this, and you should not use the same wording as decrease, you can use some other substitute as well. For example, drop, decline, fall, go down, or the downward falling, decreasing trend. If there seems no change like this, then you can use the wordings like remain stable, constant, stay at the same level, or keep stable, stabilize. So this kind of wordings or the vocabulary used for finding no change in the graph. The graph indicates a change of direction. For example, here it stop rising and start falling. So sometimes it stop falling and start rising. So it means that a change of direction is observed in this graph. If there is a frequent change like this, then you can say there is a fluctuation, or the values or the percentages fluctuate. And if something in some value is going up, you can say reach a peak or reach its highest point. Or in the similar way, if something is going down, so you can say hit a low or reach its lowest, like this, its lowest level, lowest point. You're always given the description of your graph in your topic. For example, here the topic is n-gram graph for the words, that is size and bigness. It is in the question given, and between the period 1600 to 2000. In the second graph, here again in the question it is given that the phrases FYI, and for your information, between the period of 1900 to 2000. So this information is very important for the analysis. The third one says if the weather is, if the weather be, and between the period, the timeline given, that is 1800 to 2000. The fourth one says online, internet, and the word internet with capital I between the time period of 1970 to 2015. And the last one is here, the 4 words, that is a male, females, ladies, and gentlemen, between the period, the timeline given, that is 1920 to 2000. So this information is very important for your analysis. You're going to observe the frequency of the words, the phrases used in the given time period. Now look at the closer look of the graph. On the vertical axis, we have the percentages. This is a vertical axis. And on the horizontal axis, we have the number of years. Means we have the time period, that is between 1800 to 2000. So these two things are very important. That is the percentages and the number of years. On the same graph, we also see the words or phrases given. In this graph, we have the phrases given. For example, the red line shows the phrase if the weather is, and the blue line shows if the weather be. And what you're going to observe the frequency of the words or the phrases given within this time period. So it will be shown through the percentages as well. So these things are very important in order to interpret n-gram graph in exams. Now let's see how you should structure your answer in exams. First, there should be an introductory paragraph, and then there is the body paragraph. For example, some features you are going to point out in the next paragraphs. There is no need to write a conclusion while you are describing a graph, because here you are just giving the reasoning, the solid reasoning behind the decrease or the increase in the frequency of the words used over the given time period. Start with the n-gram graph illustrates the frequency of the use of the phrases like if the weather is and if the weather be, used from 1800 to 2000. At this point, note my suggestion that don't ever change the type of the graph given to you in exams. For example, it is line graph, but in your exams it is termed as n-gram graph. So when you write your description, you must write n-gram graph. So you say n-gram graph illustrates the frequency or whatever you are going to write about, but don't call it line graph, because it is n-gram graph. So don't change the wordings which is given in the title, along with the different features which you want to comment on. For example, here the word or the phrase given, that is the for your information, and the short form of for your information, that as FYI. So we can say the overview. For example, you can say there is overview means the overall image. What do you find out at first glance after looking at this graph? What does it show you? It shows that FYI, there is an increase. You can say there is an increase in the usage. This is a blue line showing the short form of for your information, FYI. So you can write that there is an increase in this usage of FYI from the mid-1970. For example, here from the mid-1970 there is an increase rising. So you can say, and the steeper rise in its usage from around the mid-1990s, means there's a steeper rise in the mid-1990s, which and while on the other side, on the other hand, for your information, you can see there's a lot of fluctuation. For example, there is some falling, there is a decrease and then increase, then start increasing, then decreasing. So there is a lot of fluctuation seen at the first glance. After writing the overview, you're supporting your overview with the help of different features. For example, here you're writing reasoning. For example, when you say that the short form FYI is on its increase, what are the different reasons behind that? And on the other hand, when you say for your information, the full word, the full phrase, if it is, if you observe the fluctuation in its usage, or there is increase and decrease in its usage over the given time period, what are the different reasoning? What are the different reasons behind that? So you're going to write down the different features for supporting your overview.